So finally, Moist Critikal and Sneako kissed. No, I'm just kidding. No, they didn't. But they did touch tips. No, okay, seriously. All right, guys. So they ended up coming together and it was quite unbelievable. Honestly, I did not expect this at all. I talked about this 3 months ago about how, you know, Sneako was threatening Moist Critikal, and the reason why Sneako was dancing around with a gun in his hand smoking a cigar, but that was because he was celebrating the back and forth he had with Moist Critikal, and he thought that was a W. I also thought that was a W. TF, Sneako, what the fuck were you thinking, man? You thought that was a W? However, this time around they ended up coming together, and Sneako, Moist Critikal, they both walked away with a W. Let's go ahead and get into the debate.
How would you tell the director to convey the message in a different way?
You would just not use children. You could deliver the same message and you don't use children. The problem is
I don't think it would be effective. I don't think it would be as effective. It's
so
unfortunate that it's misinterpreted, but you couldn't be able to have that effect and show how provocative and how dangerous it is without using kids.
All I can say is that I somewhat agree with Sneako. When it comes to a particular role, I feel like only a child can play that. However, when it comes to this particular role, you know, the role in Cuties, there could be major repercussions embracing such a role. There will always be critics that are always going to be talking about how these children were exploited, and perhaps maybe even they consented or not, but these children will probably never really realize the potential harm that playing that role or embracing that role could have upon their future or even their mental being, and their lives will probably be impacted in certain ways that maybe these actresses didn't even know, such as how their peers, friends, teachers respond to their requests, how the viewers of the film interact with the child actresses' families, even how the public can shift these child actresses' perspective of importance into a negative one, such as, you know, a perspective of exploitedness. So I really wouldn't be surprised if one of these girls ends up coming out against the film in the future. Now I want to move on to this topic, okay? Sneako versus Brandon Buckingham, okay? Moist Critikal ended up bringing this up, and Sneako ended up performing mental gymnastics so beautifully to the point where I was inspired to want to pursue a career as an Olympic mental gymnast.
What do you think that I've said that I don't believe in?
So we'll use our beef, for example. You think I'm weak for not taking you up on a boxing fight. But on the same side of that coin, you won't take Brandon Buckingham up on that boxing fight. The whole point was I don't stand by my beliefs because I won't fight you for it. Well, with that perspective, why wouldn't you fight Brandon Buckingham when you feel so strongly about your beliefs and he says the same things I do? Wouldn't you want to prove that you stand?
The first fight that I want to take would be against somebody, one, who has more clout than me, two, I disagree with ideologically. I don't disagree with him ideologically at all.
But he says the same things I say about you.
So we all know that what Brandon Buckingham is doing towards Sneako is so much worse than what Moist Critikal is doing to Sneako. You know, Brandon Buckingham ended up making a 16-minute diss track on Sneako, and then he lit Sneako's penis on fire. Why would you do that, Brandon? Why? I don't know, man. I just hope the fire is okay. Sneako has every motive to want to go after Brandon Buckingham, but instead he chooses to go after Moist Critikal, a content creator who just likes to poke fun at him, at least until now. Now I want to move on to selling courses. So Moist Critikal, he talks about how he doesn't like it when creators sell courses online, and I agree to an extent.
So let's think about this logically. Why would someone who's selling courses on happiness and how not to be lonely, how to get laid, or how to make money, why would they actually want you to succeed? Because then they lose you as a customer. It is far more in their interest to keep you miserable to keep buying the product. And it is something a lot of them are guilty of doing. Now, I haven't seen Sneako's Creativity Kit, so I can't say for sure if he is also guilty of it as well. Maybe he does try and offer legitimate advice and actually help people. It is possible. But that's not the case for the vast majority of them, which is why I always call it out as this is scummy, or at the very least, unnecessary. We live in a time where you have access to all the information you could ever want. You just need to search it up. You don't need to be paying people that you view as successful to learn their secrets when those secrets they're revealing aren't what they used to get wealthy in the first place. It's selling you hope.
However, there is another point to this entire argument that I really want to touch on. So Moist Critikal states that the goal is to keep your fan base miserable so they can keep coming back. First off, I don't know if that's how the psychology works. It might be. However, the way I see it is that someone is always turning 18 every year, meaning that somebody's always entering the real world right after high school. So most likely they're going to need guidance. And if somebody who took the course recommends that course for that person who needs guidance, maybe they might buy into it. The second counter argument is that these people already bought the course. Why would they buy it again? However, let's steelman Charlie's point. Okay, maybe that's not what he meant. What he meant was, the viewers on his Rumble page, maybe they keep coming back, and the point is to keep them miserable so they can keep coming back. However, the thing is that I don't see it as them being miserable. Rather, it's more or less like they find it empowering. When they go and watch, a Sneako stream, they find it empowering because they feel like they are no longer being ignored and they feel heard. Because at the end of the day, when there's a group of people who just feel upset with themselves, feel like the world is against them, and then they hear somebody who is actually voicing their concerns, I mean, that makes them feel better. Could they be miserable? Perhaps they can be. Does it always have to be like that idea of, the average Sneako viewer being a miserable person? I don't think so. Now, I want to go ahead and touch back on the selling courses situation. Charlie states that he doesn't like it when creators sell courses because they sell them for an overpriced bargain, and it doesn't exactly have the value that a lot of the people need. And to that, I do agree with Moist Critilkal, because I have purchased some of these courses, and I could tell you that looking back at a lot of these courses, there's nothing but cliches in there. And what's worse is that these cliches are very important for people, but oftentimes these people who utter these cliches don't exactly understand what the cliche means. Like, for instance, when somebody says, just be yourself, to us, we listen to that and we're all like, yeah, but we hear that from everybody. But the thing is that, be yourself is a very powerful small slogan or statement if it's wielded by the correct person. If they can explain it to a person like the viewer who's actually interested in knowing how to pick up girls, then just be yourself is a very powerful statement. However, oftentimes a lot of people don't exactly know what it means and don't exactly understand it, and so they can't explain it to people. Another quick point that I want to go ahead and talk about is that, whenever these content creators sell courses, it's very difficult to get actual reviews on them, because oftentimes the people who take these courses are the people who respect the content creator, and oftentimes these courses could potentially suck and be terrible, but because the content creator or the viewer has a respect for these content creators, they're not going to talk bad about their product. Maybe some of them will, but for the most part, I can imagine that a lot of them are going to be biased and say that, yeah, this course helped me out. Now I want to go ahead and touch up on Sneako's thoughts on Moist Critilkal. Sneako has always perpetuated this idea about Moist Critilkal that you should not be watching Moist Critilkal because he doesn't understand the content that he's talking about. Listen, man, when I watch Moist Critilkal, I'm not watching him for news. I'm not watching him to get information from him. Whenever I watch Moist Critilkal, I watch him for entertainment. I go into this realm, Moist Critilkal's channel, with the idea that I'm going to be entertained because he's going to get something, a subject that people are talking about, and he's going to make fun of it. If you're going into his channel and you're wondering his thoughts on a certain subject and what he thinks, he's just going to make fun of it. Yeah, he'll probably give an opinion, but the opinion is probably not going to be all fleshed out because that's not the reason why he's making this content. He's making it because he wants to entertain people. I go into his channel and I laugh. That's why I watch his channel. However, again, I'm just going to go ahead and encourage you guys. If you guys watch Moist Critilkal, make sure that you guys watch him not for information or for the news, but instead watch him for entertainment, okay? Sneako also entertains, but the problem with him is that he kind of puts himself on this sphere of information. And the thing is that I would not watch Sneako for information, okay? Sneako doesn't exactly tend to ask the right questions when it comes to conspiracy theories or whatever other subject that goes on politically. He's just not somebody I would recommend. And now the last thing that I want to talk about is kink shaming.
But it's no secret that I have a degenerate past. Around 3 years ago, when I was 21 years old, I went to a swinger party with one of my girlfriends and joked about how traumatizing it was on a podcast. I was cheating on her a lot and I felt bad, and I thought it would make us even if we swapped with the couple. I don't do it anymore. I don't recommend it. And seeing how many people call me a cuck for what I thought was a funny story, you should probably not do the same. I tried the lifestyle that the woke mind virus pushes, and it ends up being what the woke YouTubers try to shame me for. Kind of ironic. I showed a moment of weakness on a podcast thinking that it'd be a funny experience to talk about, and it will continue to haunt me for probably the rest of my career.
One thing that I've learned throughout this entire endeavor with Sneako is that there are certain stories that you should always just keep to yourself. Never reveal certain stories because the internet is going to jump you for it. And I know that the same people who shame certain people for whatever kink also talk about how you should just hold it up proud. The thing is that we live in a world of validation. A majority of people think of you as weird. You're going to feel a certain way about your own beliefs or your own experience. In this case, Sneako ended up telling this story, and I thought that was quite a brave story, and I really like that he was open about it. I think that it would have been much more effective to just talk about the stupidity that Sneako kind of elicits whenever somebody asks him a question, because Sneako responds with a lot of stupid answers. There could have been so much content on that, but I know that people want to pick on that particular kink because it's very unique, and not a lot of people are very familiar with that particular aspect of a human. So they're gonna go ahead and just pick that out. A lot of other people who also wanted to come out with that story feel like they probably can't ever come out with that story. And so the internet kind of ruined that moment for a lot of people who probably wanted to share their story about that particular kink. But I'm sure that when Sneako came out with the story, there was people out there who could take a breather because they saw somebody like Sneako come out and they felt like they could breathe again. I honestly thought that when Sneako came out with that story, I thought that that was pretty interesting and that was quite brave of him. But of course, some people are gonna pick that experience and they're gonna pick it apart because it bothers that person for whatever reason. I guess the only question is, you know, did Sneako deserve all of this? Honestly, yeah, I do think that Sneako deserved it. He did deserve this because Sneako was out of control. He was making fun of people's experience, making fun of people's appearance, making fun of people's belief system. Like, bro, it was time that somebody put Sneako in his place. And finally, the internet came together and they put him in his place. However, at the cost of a couple of people, because now those people can never come out because of the kink shaming that went on. Nonetheless though, overall, I enjoyed this entire experience. I enjoyed everything that went on with Sneako and Moist Critilkal. Hopefully we could just put this, you know, in our past. I just hope that Sneako doesn't fuck it up because he fucked up the whole Brandon Buckingham situation. He was given a second chance and he fucked that up. So I'm crossing my fingers, my toes, tongue, eyes, everything. And I'm hoping that Sneako doesn't fuck it up, because if he does fuck it up, then there's a line of people on the internet that are waiting to roast him. And I'm the first one in line, but I'm going to be holding the door for everyone behind me. So you're going to have to deal with all of them. And note to self, never break into Moist Critilkal's house. He owns an AK-47. Instead, steal stuff through the phone. Enough said. Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, hopefully you guys learned something today.